Welcome to Mastering AI Video Automation with JSON2Video and Make.com. You're in the right place. This intro is itself an example of AI video automation in action. Behold the branding. This is a combination of an intro and an advertisement for a software project management generation platform called Pre-dev. Check out pre.dev today. Enjoy the masterclass.
Hello. In this video, we are going to cover the topic of AI video automation. We're going to cover the building blocks, the basics of AI video automation, particularly using a platform called JSON2Video. Strap in. This is going to be an incredible adventure. You are going to learn a ton. And I claim by the end of this masterclass, that's what I'm going to call it, you are going to be a master in the topic of AI video automation. Let's go. We are going to be combining many different platforms throughout this masterclass, but the three platforms that we are primarily going to be using are one, Make.com. Make.com is an automation platform. And you should be able to get through everything on the free plan, but in case you run into any issues, you can try the core plan or the pro plan. The core plan is about $10 per month and you can cancel at any time. The pro plan is about $20 per month and you can cancel at any time as well. Primary platform number 2 is going to be the OpenAI API. The OpenAI API is credits-based. $5 worth of credits is going to be more than enough for what we're doing here. And then primary platform number 3 is, of course, JSON2Video. JSON2Video will give you some free credits when you sign up, but when your free credits run out, you will likely need to spend $49.95. For context, one JSON2Video credit gets you about 1 second of rendered HD footage or a quarter second of 4K footage. We're not going to be playing around with 4K video here. The max resolution we're going to be playing around with is HD or full HD, as you'll see it called, but hopefully that gives you some context of the basic requirements. So let's get started by jumping into Make.com, and we're going to start building from scratch. Here we are in the Make.com dashboard, and if we come over to the scenarios page, I've created a folder called AI Video Automation Masterclass. Here is where we're going to be storing all of the automations or scenarios, as they're so called in Make.com, as we move through this adventure. I have also deleted all of the third-party connections that I had set up prior to recording this video so that I'm forced to show you how to set them up, as well as all of the webhooks too. So we're starting from the same place. If we come back to the scenarios page, come over to our folder, and let's jump in by creating a new automation or scenario. Let's click outside of this menu, and here is where we're going to start. So this is the primary interface that Make.com offers when building automations. This is a type of interface called a node editor. It's a very common type of interface. You're going to see it in many places if you're new to this. And when you're starting from scratch, you're going to see this purple dot that you can click on. That will open up this menu that you can scroll through to see all of the different platforms that Make.com is integrated with. When you click on one of these platforms or apps, you'll then see the different modules or functions that are supported, right? When you click on one of these modules, it's going to be added to your automation. Click outside again, right? So if I right click on the node, it opens up this little sub menu and I can delete a node by clicking this option, right? And now that I started playing around with this, we don't see that purple dot again, but it's the same thing. Now it's gray. And this little icon is what indicates to us where our automation starts. So we can add a module or node to this menu. We can also add it to this menu here. Pretty much does the same thing. So I'll click on this dot, right? The visual folks. And the first module that we're going to add is going to be found inside of the Tools app. And the exact module is the set variable module. This module allows us to set a variable in our automation. So the first variable that we're going to create will be called prompt, and the value of this variable will be hello. A variable, for those who don't know, is a place where you can store data, and you can give that place you're storing data a name. So when you configure a node, right, you have to click save in order to lock in those changes. Sometimes if you don't save by clicking outside of it, for example, and come back, you'll see your changes are erased or gone. So in order to lock them in, you have to click save. That saves the changes on the level of the node. In order to save your changes on the level of the automation, you have to do another save. So if you back out of this, right, you'll see we're getting a warning that asks us if we want to save our changes. Let me close that and show you another way how to save. This button here, you can click. That will also save. You can do Command S, right? And now you back out, right, or refresh your page. You'll have your changes saved, right? So refresh, right? Then click in here. You'll get to know this interface quickly. Trust me, it's not that complicated. And now that we've covered the basics, let's get going. So the next level up in complexity is not using a single module, although this is actually quite powerful, but let's now start to string together some more modules, right? So you can add a module by right-clicking, then pressing this Add a Module button. And that's going to open that same menu where you can scroll through or search for a particular module you're interested in using, right? The next module we're going to be using is the OpenAI Create a Completion module, right? One quick thing though, before we hop over to OpenAI, let me just mention for the people who are complete beginners, how to connect two nodes together. So if two nodes are unconnected and they're compatible, you can drag them next to each other and they'll auto link. Another way that you can create a connection is by dragging the input side of a particular node and connecting it to the output side of another node, right? Each node, well, I guess except for the first one, each node is going to have, if I right click and unlink again, an input side and an output side, right? So let's reconnect that. And depending on the module that you use, you might have to do some additional steps to set it up. For example, OpenAI requires us to get an API key from the OpenAI dashboard, which I'm going to show you how to do now, and then add it into make.com. That is the way that make.com is authenticated with our OpenAI account. Okay, now let's get this OpenAI stuff sorted out. So if we click on the OpenAI module and then click this Create a Connection button, it pops open another menu where we're asked to provide an API key and our organization ID. This field you can leave as default. As you get to know Make, you'll find this is actually quite intuitive of a name. But anyhow, to provide the OpenAI API key and organization ID, we have to come over to the OpenAI platform. This is a separate portal to ChatGPT. It's also ran by OpenAI. And if you don't have an account, sign up. I already have an account, so I'm going to log in. And to get our API key, we can come over to the dashboard. And on the side, you should see an option that says API keys. And if it's not there, just have a look around. You should be able to find it. And once we're on this page, click Create a New Key. And let's call this AI Video Automation. You can leave all this as default. We'll create the API key, copy it. This is the only time I think we'll be able to see it. So we'll copy it, come back to Make, and paste it into this field. As far as the organization ID, come over to our profile. And here is where we will find our organization ID. So if we copy that, paste it in here, then click Save, that should connect our OpenAI account with our make.com account. And that's looking great. So we can save this if we want. All right, so we can't click Save, but we can close this and then save like this. We get another warning. Haha. Save anyway. Okay, so let's keep going. If we open up the OpenAI module, the first thing that we have to provide is what AI model we want to use. You can see that OpenAI offers many, and the one that we're going to be going with is GPT-4o. You could use others. Others might work, but that's the one that I'm going to go with. After you select the model, you can send messages to this AI model via this API. It might seem weird if you've never seen it before, but this is how it works. Each message that you send has to be labeled as either a user, assistant, or system message. The way that I think about this is a user message is a message that's sent from our perspective to the AI. It's not going to make sense if you've never used it before, but anyways, an assistant message is a message that the AI sends back to us. Why would we label a message that we're sending to the AI as an assistant message? Well, imagine that we're sending the history of past messages, right? So we ask a question, maybe we're having a conversation, the AI responds, and we send something else, the AI responds, right? At that point, we have a history of messages where it's alternating as far as ones that we're sending and ones that the AI are sending, right? So we can send that message history to the AI. In some cases, that's what we want to do. For example, if we're conversing with the AI. That's not what we're doing here, but anyways, I'm being a little bit too pedantic. And a system message is usually a message used to configure the persona of the AI. That's how I think of it. Anyways, for now, we're just going to send a user message. This is a message sent from our perspective to the AI. And we can type our message here, right? So let's enter hello, right? Then click save. And now we can run our automation. So if we click run once, it looks like it ran successfully. And these little bubbles allow us to see what each node outputted in the automation, right? So if you hover over this one and click it, you can see the response that the AI sent back to us, right? We said hello, the AI said, hello, how can I assist you? Make sense? So instead of hard coding the message that we're going to be sending to the AI, let's reference the value that we have in another node, which we can do via this little panel right here. This little panel has many different tabs, and each of these tabs gives you different functionality that you'll learn about over time. This first one with the star icon allows you to reference values that are sitting in other nodes of the automation. So instead of hard coding the text hello, let's reference whatever we write into our prompt variable. And that's how we do it. So we can click on different fields and reference them. So if we click save, now let's say 2 plus 2 equals, should say 4, right? At least that's what I'm expecting. 2 plus 2 equals 4. That makes sense. That does it for this little make.com crash course. If you're intermediate to advanced in automations and make.com, this probably was a little bit pedantic, not too valuable, but this part of the masterclass was designed for people who are brand new to this. There's a lot of those people out there. And yeah, so a lot of what we learned is definitely going to be applicable throughout this masterclass. And now let's move on to the second part where we learn about JSON and how to use JSON with make.com. And that should give us the final basics or fundamentals that we need to start learning how to generate videos using automation with JSON2Video. If you've never heard of the term JSON, it probably sounds a little bit intimidating, but I assure you it's quite simple. All that JSON is a way of using key value pairs to represent things. Let me give you an example. So if we were going to represent something, for example, me with JSON, we would use a series of keys and values. For example, the first key we would use would be name. The value of the key name would be Tad. The second key we would use would be the key age. The value of the key age would be 35. Then we would go to the next key. It might be the key weight. The value of the key weight would be 155, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Once again, if it's not making sense, I assure you it's very, very simple. So now let's jump into make.com and see how we can use JSON in the context of building AI automations. Here we are in the make.com dashboard. Let's come over to the scenarios page. I'm going to be doing my work inside of this folder. And let's create a new scenario. And I'll call this scenario JSON. The first thing that we're going to do is add a set variable node. So let's come over to the Tools app, and this set variable module should be found inside of it. And this variable is going to be called our prompt. And for now, let's just say hello. Let's save that. Then make sure we save our automation. The next node that we will be adding will be an OpenAI create a completion node. I've already connected my make.com account with OpenAI. If you haven't done so already, you'll need to get an API key from your OpenAI platform dashboard, then copy it into the configuration of this node. Anyways, I've already set this up. Let's move along. And the model that we're going to be using is going to be GPT-4o. And at the time of recording, when we want to send messages to the GPT-4o API, we have to label each message that we send as either being a user message, assistant message, or system message. A user message means a message that we're sending to the AI. An assistant message means a message that the AI is sending to us. And a system message is a message that is used to configure the persona of the AI. So for example, you are a lawyer with 10 years of experience in New York law, blah, blah, blah. Let's stick with the user message for now. And the message that we're going to send is whatever value we've provided in the prompt variable. So let's save that and run this as a smoke test. And it looks like things are working. So we said hello and the AI responded, hello, how can I assist you today? Great. So now let's get to the JSON part. So if we open up the OpenAI node again, we can see this little checkbox on the bottom that says show advanced settings. Let's turn that on. And that's going to add a couple more configurations that we can set. And there's a bunch more of them. The one that we need is response format. So instead of having the AI respond to us in text, we would like it to respond to us in JSON. And we would also like the AI to automatically parse this JSON for us, or rather the OpenAI node to automatically parse this JSON for us. What this does is automatically set these key value pairs, right? That's all JSON is. It's just a list of key value pairs. It sets it up for us so that we can automatically pluck them out. We don't have to do that setup step of converting the JSON into this pluckable thing. This will make sense shortly. So let's save that and run it to see what happens. I think it's going to fail, right? And the error that we see here says, if you're going to be using JSON mode, your prompt has to contain the words JSON in some form, right? So let's ask the AI to give us back some JSON. Let's say represent a person as a JSON object. So let's save that and then run it. Now that our prompt contains the words JSON, we don't get the error. Let's see what the AI responded with. All right. It created a person for us, John Doe, 30, male, his email, phone number, etc. Right? Now, let's do something a little bit more creative. Instead of returning a person in JSON, let's say write a 3-scene movie as a JSON object. We'll save that. Run it again. And let's take a look. So the title of the movie is Whispers of the Forest. The genre is fantasy. Here are the scenes. This is a list. And each scene has a title, as well as a plot, a location, characters, and the dialogue, right? So it went all out. There is one more thing that we have to understand for now. We can learn the rest as we go regarding JSON. Notice how we weren't very specific with the list of key value pairs that we wanted returned to us when asking for a JSON object. But when we build AI automations, we will need to be very specific. So here is how we can ask or tell the AI to give us back JSON with a very specific set of key value pairs. So let's adjust this prompt and write as a JSON object following this schema. Schema is a fancy word. It just means general structure or rules. And when you're creating a JSON object or a JSON structure or a JSON schema, you're going to write a set of curly braces. And then within these curly braces, you can list key value pairs. And it's conventional to put some spaces before listing the key value pairs. It makes it a little bit easier to read. Each key is going to be put inside of quotes. And after you provide the key, you'll write colon, and then you'll usually write a space. It's easier to read. And then here is where you will provide the value of this key. In JSON, there are a limited set of types or value types that you can put. So JSON supports text. The way that you say text in JSON schema is the word string. This will make sense later. Just keep your mind open and relaxed. This stuff is really not that complicated. You're going to learn it super fast. The other data type is numbers, good old math numbers like 1, 2, 3, or decimals like 3.141, right? Like pi. You can also have lists, right? The way that you write lists is with square braces, right? So if you wanted a list of numbers, you would write it like this, right? And you can also have values which themselves are JSON. So you can nest JSON at various levels, right? So we could create another JSON structure as the value of this first key. So let me show you what this looks like just to move things along and not be too pedantic. Hopefully you have enough of a framework to pick this up as we go. So because we're describing a movie, we want our movie to have a title, and we don't want to write the title. We want the AI to come up with this movie for us. So let's say generically, we want some text as a value of this title. So we'll write string here. For each key value pair in the JSON, you're going to end it with a semicolon, and then you can add another key value pair. So I'll put another set of spaces, and then we're going to ask for some scenes and put a colon. Each scene will be a JSON object itself that has a title, and the title will be a string just like the movie title. And the scene will also have, for simplicity at the moment, a short description. And the short description will also be a string. And because we don't want one scene, we want a list of scenes, right? Square braces. And that does it. So if we save this and run the automation again, let's see what the AI responds with. Take a look. And you can see we have a title and a list of scenes, and each scene has a title and a short description, just like we asked for. You can use this general technique in many different use cases. There are many internet connected systems that use JSON as the primary data transfer format. For example, there are systems out there that you can send JSON to, and in response to a specific formatted JSON with specific key value pairs will return to you, for example, a movie. Or for example, there are systems out there where you can send some JSON, right? And that JSON will get stored in a database. There's many, many different systems out there that you can use JSON for. So this is a very practical thing to know. Now let's move on to part 3. We are now going to walk through the elements or basic building blocks of a platform called JSON2Video. JSON2Video is exactly what it sounds like. It's an API that you can send some JSON to, and in response, it'll render a video for you according to the details of your JSON. Now would be the time to sign up to JSON2Video.com. If it's your first time signing up, you will get some free credits, which is great. And as a heads up, when you run out of those free credits, you will need to make a purchase of about $50. But my goal is to avoid you having to make that purchase. And the other thing that you're going to have to set up is a file storage system, like for example, Dropbox or Google Drive. And if you're more technical, you can even set up your own file server. But I recommend you use Dropbox. Dropbox is free, it's simple, and it integrates really well with the automation platform we're going to be using, make.com. And the other pro tip I'll give you before we jump in is to make sure that while you're learning this platform, JSON2Video.com, make sure that each video you render is max 2 seconds to 5 seconds. For context, one JSON2Video credit gives you about 1 second of rendered video. So if you make the videos really short, that'll stretch those free credits really far. Make sense? Here is the complete list of elements supported by JSON2Video's API. audio elements, video elements, voice elements, image elements, subtitles, HTML, text, components, and audiograms. We're going to walk through each one by one. Let's get started by creating a new scenario. And the first module we're going to add is going to be in the Tools app. We're going to add a set variable module, and we're going to call this variable movie. And we will provide the variable value soon. Let's add another module, and this one is going to be JSON2Video. Right? The exact module that we want is going to be this one, create a movie from JSON. So now we have to sign up to JSON2Video and get an API key. If you've already signed up to JSON2Video, you can come over to your dashboard and you see this page here that says API keys. I'm going to mask mine out, but this is where you can find an API key for connecting Make with JSON2Video. And that's it. And we could write our JSON in here, but I prefer to reference the variable value out here. And let's save this and align everything. All right, let's get going by starting with this baseline JSON. And I'm going to be using this tool called JSON Formatter. This is a tool that makes it a little bit easier to work with JSON. You can collapse sections of the JSON when it starts to get large. And if and when the JSON gets a little bit misformatted, you can easily fix that by clicking this format button. All right, so let's bring that back over here. Here you can see the overview of a movie.json object according to the JSON2Video API. Each movie or video is going to have a certain resolution. This is a code that means 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels, right? This has to do with how pixelated the video is going to be. Lower or low, I should say, will make the video more pixelated, but it'll render faster. And we're actually going to put SD here. SD, I think, is 720 pixels across and maybe like 480 pixels up. I might have that wrong, but anyways, we're setting things up so that as we learn, it's cheap and it's fast. That's the rationale. And the other aspect of a movie is it's going to consist of scenes, right? And each scene has a comment where we can put the scene's name. It's going to be scene 1. And each scene is comprised of elements. Ha ha ha. And you can see there's also a key for elements that sits at the base of the movie object. So this would be useful for putting like a backing track across the entire video. But we'll learn about this stuff as we get deeper. But anyways, let's now add a audio element. So I'm going to add a JSON object inside of this elements array. And the way that we add an audio element is by adding the key type, colon, space, another set of quotes. And then here we're going to type audio. We're going to provide the source key, right? SRC, colon, space, and then another set of quotes. Here we're going to provide the URL to some audio file. I think JSON2Video supports MP3, WAV, maybe a couple other file types as well. But anyways, I've shared all these media assets with you so you don't have to waste time finding your own. And here in the audio folder, if you copy the link to this file and then come back to the JSON, you can paste it here. The only thing that we have to change is this last URL param. We have to change this to be raw equals 1. This tells Dropbox that we want to download the file, not view it inside of the Dropbox application. And because we're trying to avoid that $50 credits charge from JSON2Video, let's make sure that this video is going to be very short. So we'll say duration 3 seconds. And I think that'll work. So if we format this, yeah, this is important. So sometimes there's characters that you're not seeing in the UI, but are embedded in the JSON. It has to be formatted properly in order for it to work. So you can click that format button, copy this. And then if we come back to make.com, let's paste in our first official movie, save that. And if everything's set up, we can run this and you see it looked like it completed successfully. If we come to our JSON2Video dashboard over to the render logs page, we should see a new entry. Was I right? I said 720 by 480. I was wrong. It's 640 by 480. I was close. But we can see the video is 3 seconds. It took 3 seconds to make. If we click this, we can see it. Right? So that's our first movie. It's just an audio file. All right, let's rinse and repeat. So let's start with that same base movie. And because we're professional, SD, low, and then let's add a video element. So let's add a JSON object to the elements array of the first scene and put type video, comma, and here we put the URL of the video. I've provided a video file, so you don't have to waste time looking for your own. Technically, this could be whatever you want. Anyhow, let's come back here and paste in the URL, and we have to fix this. Let's JSON2Video download the file instead of trying to view it in the Dropbox UI. And the last thing that we'll do is make sure we don't burn our free credits if we're still on them. And let's make this video only 3 seconds. So let's format this. It's hidden behind this ad, unfortunately. We're using a free JSON formatter. It is very spammy with the ads. But yeah, we can click format and copy this into make and save. And let's run this again and come back to the render logs. And here we are. There we go. Okay, now that you're familiar with the general pattern of what we're doing here, we're walking through each of the basic elements provided by the JSON2Video API. We're going to move a little bit faster. So the next element is going to be the voice element. And if we come over to the JSON formatter application, paste this in. Here is how we specify a voice element. So type voice. Here's where we put the text that we want spoken. There are 2 or 3 model providers, I guess you could say, for powering the text to speech. There's Azure and then 11 Labs, right? But using 11 Labs is going to burn some of your credits. So that's why I'm suggesting Azure. There's this other page on the JSON2Video documentation where you can choose the specific Azure voice. And let's keep this simple. Let's go with English. And just to mix it up, let's go with Duncan. And let's replace Emma with Duncan and format this, copy it into the make.com automation, save, run. That looked like it worked. And let's refresh the render logs and play this.
Hello, world.
Great. Next up is the image element. So let's come back to the JSON formatter, paste this in. we have to provide the URL to the image. So let's come back here. I've provided an example image to you. If you want to use it, you can use your own as well. Let's copy this. Come back to JSON formatter. Paste. Fix that. And we're positioning the image in the center of the window. And we're going to show the image for 1 second. Let's format this, copy, and paste it into make.com. Save, run. Let's come back to the render logs, refresh. And take a look. Perfect. The next element will be the subtitles element. So let's come back to the JSON formatter application and paste this in. As you can see, the JSON is starting to get a little bit larger. But we can collapse it to get a better overview. Right. So for the subtitles element, you're going to need actually 2 elements. You're going to need a voice element or some audio that has audible dialogue. If you use the subtitles element with non-audible dialogue or like a piece of audio that doesn't have dialogue, who knows what it might spit out. But anyways, you'll see how it works. Here I've customized this and I am showing you here how to use a custom font. JSON2Video comes with some pre-built fonts or some built-in fonts, but for branding, you're probably going to want to choose your own font. So all you have to do is come over to Google Fonts and you can download one of these TTF files and place it somewhere on the internet. I've included it in the media assets that I'm sharing. You get the link and reference it like this. Make sure to change the URL param if you're using Dropbox. And these are styling changes. Anyways, I'm being a little bit pedantic. So let's format this, copy it into make.com, save that, run it. That looked like it worked. Let's come back to our render logs, refresh, take a look.
Hello world.
Right, so it generates on the fly captions based on some audible audio. That's what the subtitles element does. Next up is the HTML element. And this element is pretty cool, except that you cannot do animations. That's my only gripe with it. But here we are. So we're going to paste this in. And here you can see some HTML code. And let's format it, copy, paste this into make.com, save, run, come back to the render logs, refresh, take a look, right? So this could be useful. The next element is the text element. And it does come with some animations and customizability. We're just going to test it with this plain Jane version. But yeah, you can customize the font and do some things, right? It does have some animation templates, I guess you could say, right? So you can do some things with this. Let's come back here, format it, copy, paste, save, run, render logs, refresh, play it. Right. Next up is the component element. This is a fancier or more spruced up text-like element. This is what it looks like. And let me show you some other components that come with JSON2Video. I wish the JSON2Video platform lets you build your own custom components. Hopefully that's on the roadmap. But yeah, definitely get creative with some of these. Also these. All right. Format, copy, paste, save, run, render logs, refresh. There we go. Let's play it. All right. We got a little news-like title, little news crawl. The next element is the audiogram element, which, believe it or not, I was not able to get working. This is what the audiogram element looks like, though. It's pretty cool. I guess you have to play some audio in the background, and then it'll animate this waveform according to the amplitude of the waves in the audio. But anyways, if you're wondering how I figured out all this stuff, I pretty much read through all the documentation. So as a heads up, there are two versions of the JSON2Video docs. This, to me, looks like it's the V1 version, and then there is the V2 version over here, right? The documentation is pretty good. Some of the information is a bit sprawled across V1 and V2, but anyhow, that covers all of the JSON2Video elements or basic building blocks that you can combine with each other to automate the creation of your videos. Okay, to play around with JSON2Video scenes, let's create a new scenario. Call this JSON2Video scenes. And let's add a set variable module. Call this movie. And we'll provide this soon. And let's also add a JSON2Video. Create a movie from JSON node. And this will be whatever we provide here. Save. All right. So let's provide the movie.json. This is the first movie.json that we'll take a look at. So you can see that the movie consists of one scene here and another scene here. And each scene is comprised of elements. And we're keeping this very simple for now, just to illustrate this concept. So if we copy this, and then paste it here, save, and run this. Come over to the render logs, refresh. Play. Scene 1, scene 2. Makes sense? Just hammer it home. Let's do a movie with 3 scenes. Format. And you can see here we have scene 1, scene 2, and scene 3. Let's copy that and provide the value here. Save. Run. Come back to the render logs on JSON2Video. Refresh. And let's take a look. Scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. Make sense? Okay, let's get a little bit creative. Here is the next movie.json that we're going to use. So this is very similar to what it was before. But now we have Azure Voice, an AI text-to-speech voice system, reciting some text for us, or reading some text for us, rather. So let me format that. Let's come back to make, save that, send it to JSON2Video. Come back to the dashboard and JSON2Video, refresh, and let's take a look.
George Washington, John Adams.
Makes sense? So the next iteration of this will be layering on some subtitles. And here's the updated movie.json. So let me collapse this so you can get an overview of what's going on. So that's scene 1, that's scene 2. And the way that the subtitles element works is you can only have one per movie in JSON2Video. And here you can see I've customized the font. You can control a couple other dimensions or aspects of the subtitles that get generated. But anyways, let's keep this simple. Copy, paste this in, save, send this to the JSON2Video API. It's still rendering. There we go.
George Washington, John Adams.
All right.
George Washington, John Adams.
Great. So hopefully you get a feel for how you can combine these elements and start to get creative. And I'll see you in the last part. Finally, all of that build up for this. You now have all of the fundamental knowledge under your belt for being able to do AI video automation. Let's now take a look at how we can put all these things together. Here I am in the Make.com dashboard. Let's create a new scenario. And we'll call this one AI video automation. And the first node that we're going to add is going to be a tools node. We'll make it a set variable module. And we're going to call this config. The value of this config will be this. Shift Command V. Save. And the next node is going to be a JSON parse JSON module. And we're going to parse whatever we write into the first node. Save. And the next node will be an iterator. And we will be iterating over. Yeah, that's what's weird about Make.com. Sometimes you have to run the scenario in order to see the values available to you. So here we are. We're going to iterate over the scenes that we provide in this configuration node. So let me save that, align this, zoom out a little bit. And the next node is going to be a tools compose a string node. And here is the value that we'll paste in here. Shift Command V. And we'd like to reference the script of the current scene that we're iterating through. And you can see we're including that in a voice element. So let's save that. Next thing is we're going to add a JSON parse JSON module, and we're going to reference the output of this node. Save. And then we're going to aggregate all of these values. Array aggregator. Okay, so this is a little bit weird, but this is how it looks like. This is actually a for loop. So for the people who are programmers, pretty much what you have to do with these iterators and array aggregators, this is how I think of it. You link them like this. So this is like the end of the for loop. We're defining where the loop starts. And sometimes you have to run things before you can actually see the values. Okay, so now if we come in here, we can see that we have these available to us. So to explain what is happening here, we're providing some configuration for a movie we want generated. We parse that into JSON. We then iterate over each scene. And as we're iterating over each scene, we build out the elements for each scene. And we aggregate all of those elements for each scene into another array. And we're building an object for each scene that consists of these keys. So we'll save that. And the next thing is adding a JSON transform to JSON node. We're going to reference the array that we build in the array aggregator. And finally, we can include that in a JSON config that will get sent to the JSON2Video API. Shift Command V. There we go. And we're going to reference the JSON config from the previous node. So we'll save that and run it. And let's come over to the JSON2Video render logs and check it out.
George Washington, John Adams.
Yep. So we took a little config that we provided and generated a movie. All right, let's continue iterating on this AI video automation. Let's spruce it up a little bit more. So let's add a photo for each scene. So let's put a photo of George Washington to accompany the script. And let's also include a photo of John Adams. These are the founding fathers of the United States of America, for those who don't know. And save that. And the next thing is we will reference these URLs as we're iterating over each scene. Shift Command V. And yep, we have to run animation. And now we should see the photo URL available to us. Save. Run. And let's come to the render logs in JSON2Video and take a look.
George Washington, John Adams.
Yep. And let's do some final tweaks. Let's add let me say that before I exit out. So let's add the 2 nodes from this setup. So I shift selected them both. Now I'm going to copy these modules over to the AI video automation that we're building. Click in and paste them. And we will not need these anymore. So I'm going to shift click this one, right click, delete. This is going to be our starting point. Let's delete this and connect this. Align everything. Take a quick look. Connect our OpenAI account. And we're going to send a user message. And we're going to reference the prompt that we write here. So here's the prompt that we will include. Shift Command V. Write a 2-scene movie about the founding fathers of the USA. Each scene should be 5 to 10 seconds. And then we put some reference information like the link to the URLs. And this is the output schema that we're going to ask the AI to produce for us. And we're giving it an example of what a valid final output would look like, just for additional context. So let's save this and take a look at what's going on here. We can save that too. And now we have to reference not the scenes from before, but we're going to reference the, actually we have to run this before we can see the value. So let me save this. Let's run it. Okay. Now we should be able to see, we do see the scenes, but we still need to do one little thing. We need to show the advanced settings. And we need to parse this. Here we go. Text format JSON. And then we want to automatically parse it. Save. Save that. Run it one more time. And then we can grab the scenes that are produced by the AI. Save that. And I think we should be good. So let's come back to the render logs and take a look.
In 1776, George Washington contemplates the future of a new nation. John Adams passionately argues for independence during the Continental Congress.
All right, that's kind of cool. I think we need to adjust the styling. So let's make the text smaller. Let's save that. Try again. Come over here. Take another look.
George Washington contemplating the future of a new nation. John Adams passionately discussing independence.
Cool. So that pretty much does it. The last thing that you would do after everything is solid, you would take up the resolution to wherever you want it to be. And we can also do another little thing now that we've made the aspect ratio larger. Let's add this little config to the images. Say resize, fit, save, save, run. Still rendering. All right, that finished. Let's take a look.
In a dimly lit room, George Washington ponders over the challenges of a new nation. John Adams passionately discusses the future of the Republic with fellow patriots.
Cool. So we're just scraping the tip of the iceberg of how creative you can get with this platform. Have fun with it. And you can use this for doing many different things. Definitely for automating the creation of your branded social media is one thing. Welcome to JSON2Video.